Hey, what's happening, good people? What is going on out there in YouTube land? You are now tuned in to another dope video here at No BS Allowed TV, the place where we discuss truth, life, love, and all dope things in between. I am your host, King P, aka Big Game James, aka Pastor Offering, aka The Ice Nine, aka the reason why you are here, also known as that guy, also known as the undisputed heavyweight champion of common sense. I thank you for stopping by my channel. I really appreciate it. If you are new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing. But for right now, kick your shoes off, relax. I promise you're going to love it here. All my returning subscribers, salute. And you know how we do it, so let's get right into it. Now, I'm sure you saw the title. So, without any further ado, we're just gonna kick it off. Now, I really didn't want to get off into this subject because I see variations of this theme going around, especially on social media. Um, various YouTube channels have been dedicated, to this subject matter, and but I had to weigh in on this because for one, I'm a basketball fan. I know the game. I've played it. And for two, I'm an MJ fan. And this current wave of MJ disrespect has got to stop. It's so many examples of the narrative being twisted and blatant out and out lies being told on this man's career that is sickening. And everywhere you turn, whether it be TV or in comment sections and whatever, you got somebody saying something stupid about the career of Michael Jeffrey Jordan, aka the GOAT. And it makes you wonder, why is all this happening? Why is this cool now? Who came up with all this? Because I'll tell you, 20 years ago, this was not the move. This was not the wave. The world was fine knowing that Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player to ever lace up a pair of shoes. Now, of course, you had, the older heads that would say Wilt or Kareem or what have you, but it was universally known, as it still is now, that Air Jordan number 23 is the best that ever did it and the best that ever will do it. But now in our year of 2024, we have a lot of foolishness going on, and it's nothing that Mike did personally. In fact, he's not even entertaining any of this. He's not responding to any of this. But a blind man can see that there's a concerted effort to basically take Jordan down a peg, or a peg or two or three. And it's just so much narrative shifting and BS going around that, again, I had to speak on it. So you have people like Shannon Sharp. You have people, who push this nonsense that Mike somehow either played inferior competition, his accomplishments weren't as great as they actually were, or there were, or he benefited from all, a multitude of rule changes and things like that. All of that is some nonsense. If you're sitting up here trying to say that Michael Jordan was a manufactured star, or he really wasn't like that, you are a fool. You are a fool, and you really need to get your head examined. Because see, the thing about MJ, what we figured out way back in the gap is that, all right, these right here, these eyes, They don't lie to you. And when you saw MJ play for the first time, you knew that he had it. You saw everything you needed to see. He didn't cheat you. He gave his effort all the time. And this whole thing, this whole cute thing that that the kids like to say, oh, about his competition. Oh, well, he played against plumbers. That's why he was able to do that. Oh, he was the only guy that was athletic back then. Again, idiocy, stupidity. These things were put out into the into the into the conversation by people who are wanting to promote someone else. Someone it's wanting to exalt someone else in Michael's in it put someone else on Michael's throne. Now we all know who those people are, and if you are sitting up here living under a rock or living in denial, I'm just going to tell it like it is. It's the La Media. Yeah, the supporters and sycophants of one LeBron James. Because again, 20 some years ago, this was not the conversation. This was not even a thought. Now, one could come and say, well, hey, well, LeBron hadn't really started doing his thing yet. Well, the seeds were planted way back then when he came into the league, because the thing about it is that he was being promoted as the greatest thing since the Afro pick. And again, this is not to take anything away from LeBron. LeBron is a great player. Now, whether you have him in your top 5 or your top 10, that's on you. However, this whole initiative of basically trying to denigrate Michael Jordan and exalt LeBron has gotten way out of hand, and it needs to be spoken about. You have the sports pundits, as I said, they're supporting this nonsense. And what's worse is you have former NBA players coming out and trying to trying to come through with revisionist history, as if Michael Jordan didn't getting bust their ass, or he didn't give them the business. You have people like Rasheed Wallace, and Rasheed Wallace, I'm really appalled at you, bro. You said some goofy stuff that, oh, Michael was not a great defender, as if the NBA just gives out Defensive Player of the Year awards. Did your man Ben Wallace, who happened to win multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards, did they just happen to say, oh, well, you know what, Ben, we like you. You that guy for right now. We're just gonna keep giving you the Defensive Player of the Year award. See how silly that sounds? We break this down. Because again, there's this whole thought process that because Mike was Mike and no other team had a Mike, that somehow diminishes his greatness, because there wasn't another guy on every opposing team that had a 6'6" cat quick, jump out of the gym, guy that could do all these amazing things or what have you. And that's crazy, because Mike was a one of one. Magic was a one of one. Larry Bird is a one of one, and so on and so on. But you never heard anybody say the things that they said say the things about them that they are saying about Mike now. You don't hear people saying that, oh, well, Magic Johnson played against plumbers, or he played against this, that, and the third. Now, again, we are in a different age, and we have a bunch of goofy McGoofingtons out there who just want to say things just because their mouths work and they can type on a keyboard. They'll say things like the players of yesteryear couldn't play in today's NBA, which is silly. I saw a video on Facebook of one cat. He had a video up of Dr. J, and he was basically saying that Dr. J was trash, and he didn't want to hear any more about the greatness of Dr. J. Look at this, he can't go left, he can't do this, he couldn't do that. Again, it's too many idiots out here who are basically who are expelling trash into the universe, and it has to stop. But getting back to to my another point of contention again with the whole Rasheed Wallace thing and players like him for every player like a Vernon Maxwell or J.R. Ryder or or whatever that come out and they tell the real truth. Hey, you know what? Mike was that dude. You didn't want it with him. You now have all these other guys who could who couldn't even carry water for Mike trying to come through and basically try to make it as if he really wasn't like that and that he was basically just something. He was a creation of the NBA. Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is pushing is has been pushing the narrative for years that the NBA changed the rules in order for Mike to succeed. That is some BS. And Isaiah is a sore loser because again, Isaiah was the catalyst of the Jordan rules. He was the guy that came through and said, "Hey, you know what? We can't handle this cat straight up. We got to do something to stop him." And so he came up, he and the coaching staff, they came up with the Jordan rules, which was basically to put Mike on his back every time he drove the lane. I don't want to hear all this stuff. Oh, well, Mike couldn't go left, and all this other crazy, corny stuff that Isaiah is talking about. Isaiah is a goofy for all that because again, Isaiah knew the truth. Isaiah knew the truth, and everybody on that Piston team knew the truth. The NBA didn't come along and change any rules other than the fact that you couldn't body slam somebody every time they went to the hole. Now, I grew up playing tough basketball. I grew up playing, I grew up enduring tough defense, hand checking, and all that. Had no problem with it. But when it becomes MMA, which is if you go and look at those old Chicago Bulls, Detroit Piston playoff games, a lot of that stuff resembled assault or MMA because again the the Bulls were getting handled, they were getting manhandled, and they were getting they were basically just getting it handed to them, and and it wasn't just the physicality, it was also the malicious intent. You had Rodman was punching Pippen and Jordan. There's I'm not lying. Go back and check it out. Check out them fouls. You mean to tell me that that's supposed to be okay? But Isaiah and those of his ilk, the bitter Betties, will promote this and say, "Oh well, he went crying to the league and all this, that, and the third." Mike didn't go crying to the league. He gave an interview and he gave his opinion on the Pistons style of basketball. He said that it's not good for the league, which it isn't. It's not good for basketball. It wasn't. But that got twisted, and there it is. But again, Isaiah cornball. Then you have this whole thing of, oh well, when older cats say that Mike would have averaged 50 today, which he would have in today's no defense league. Man, Mike would have scored whatever he wanted to score. Keep in mind, Mike's averaged in the season of 1986-87, Mike averaged 37.1 points. All right, he played all 82 games, scored 3,000 points. Only him and Will Chamberlain have ever done that. Now I don't want to keep. I don't want to do the normal thing because a lot of y'all know the stats, or you should know the stats. However, certain things just need to be said. Back in 1987, 86, they were still, but they were still playing hard, tough, hard nosed defense. Big men camped out under the basket. You had to earn your points. And Mike was doing more than that. He was setting the league on fire. So you mean to tell me in today's pace and space league where they basically run up and down and basically just it's a free for all that a player like Mike couldn't average whatever he wanted. They couldn't stop him then, but somehow in a league that doesn't play defense, they're going to stop him. Oh, it's because he doesn't shoot threes. Everything nowadays is predicated on the threes. Mike didn't want to shoot threes. That wasn't a big part of the game back then. It was all about being as aggressive as possible. Shooting threes isn't aggressive. Shooting good shots is a good thing, but too much reliance on the jump shot when you're not a shooter like that just is bad. It's just bad basketball, which is another thing that is contributing to the decline of the NBA as we know it. But that's another conversation for another day. However, all these crazy things that are being said about the black cat, it's just goofiness. Oh, Mike would have been DeMar DeRozan today. And no disrespect to DeMar DeRozan. And I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. DeMar DeRozan in his prime was not even two-thirds of the player that Michael Jordan was in his prime. We're talking about a guy who dominated both ends of the court. And again, lose that whole thing of, oh well, Scottie Pippen was the end all be all, and without him, Mike wouldn't have accomplished anything. As if he hadn't accomplished anything before there was a Scottie Pippen, Rookie of the Year, All Star, leading vote getter, scoring champion, things like that. His if we just go by because again Scottie Pippen, and for those of you who keep exalting Scottie to this grand mythical being, and again, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, so I can say this: Scottie was not a factor as a player, a real factor as a player until 1989-90. He came in the league as a rookie in 1987. He wasn't coming through and doing the things that Mike was doing when he first got in the league. Brad Sellers was starting over him. You don't know who that is? Google him. Scottie Pippen was timid. He was a bit soft. He had to grow into becoming the player that he eventually became. But him being with Mike actually helped him out. And those two gelled together along with Horace Grant and the other Bulls players, and they became champions. Now, of course, the detractors will sit there and tell you that, oh, well, Mike only won because the Pistons, they were old, and and Magic, he had HIV and all this, that, and the third, all this other nonsense. Magic finished in 1991. Magic finished second in MVP voting. The Pistons were not old. Isaiah was 28. Dennis Rodman in his mid 20s. Joe Dumars mid 20s. The oldest guy on the team was Bill Laimbeer. Again, you can go back and look at this, but this foolishness has to stop. There's no reason that Mike should be disrespected as far as him being a player. Now, whatever you think of him as a person, that's your business. But as a player, the resume is impeccable. The resume is impeccable. Now I get it. The psychology of people who hate, they're miserable. and whatnot, and and they dislike anything that is they dislike anything that is great. You know, there were people that were that were hating on Mike way back then before he even won anything. See, back in the day, they used to say that he was George Gervin with a smile. That all he could do was score. He wasn't going to get a ring. When he got drafted, they didn't place much value on him. I mean, they placed value, but they didn't place as much value on him because he wasn't 7 feet. Back in the day, it was all about the big men. So, what is this guard going to do? Well, we all seen what he did. The flair, the amazing ability to to come through in the clutch, all of that. The will to win, the competitive nature, all of that. And now some idiots are trying to come together. They try to to diminish that and make it seem as if these things that he did was just average. Man, get out of here. Get out of here. It's comical. It's comical. But you know what? This is all par for the course in the long run because the the longer that you stay up on top, the more detractors you're going to get. I get it. But the real reason that they hate so much on MJ is because they know they can't take they cannot take MJ the player down. The late great Kobe Bryant, a lot of his game was modeled after Michael Jordan. So you mean to tell me that if you model yourself and you come as close to the GOAT as possible, you're not in the conversation? You're not in the conversation, but this other guy has somehow leaped over you because, oh, well, they say so. What? That doesn't make any sense. And that's really what it's all about. It's exalting LeBron over, over MJ, over Kobe, over all these other great players, basically making it as if he was, that he is, that he is better than everybody when in fact he is not. And this is not a knock against LeBron. This is not an attack on LeBron. But the real reason that it's cool to hate on MJ now is because, again, they are trying to push this narrative because they have to make LeBron seem like he's greater than what he is. I don't want to hear this whole thing about the Wizards years. You know what? Old Michael Jordan was still giving cats buckets. No, he wasn't able to leap over cats like he used to, but he was still fundamentally sound and he did his thing. He didn't accomplish what he did in Chicago. He didn't have the team in order to do that. But before he got injured, which is another thing, he had the Wizards in playoff contention. And he was one of the best 10 to 15 players in the league as an old man. So that in and of itself should tell you something. But at the end of the day, again, all the lies, all the BS, all that other stuff that you try, all the dirt that you try to throw on Mike's career, try to say that the 2 3 peats weren't all that impressive, and oh, he had a super team, which is some garbage because he never had a super team. He didn't go and recruit Charles Barkley and Magic Johnson to come play with him. He didn't sit up there and get in a meeting and say, "Hey, you know what? I need more help every year." Bulls management went out and got the players that they needed in order to accomplish what they accomplished. You mean to tell me that the Bulls teams from the first three-peat were a super team? There's no way that they were a super team. They were a collection of one great individual, one really good individual, another good individual, and the rest mainly role players that all played their role to perfection. and they were coached by a pretty good coach. That's it. Then you go to the second three-peat. Okay, you had a Tony Kukoc. All right. You got a Dennis Rodman. But Dennis Rodman wasn't the same Dennis Rodman that was the Detroit Dennis Rodman when he was actually guarding everything 1 through 5. Yeah, Dennis Rodman really guarded everything 1 through 5, kids. Unlike your king. See, there's tape of Dennis Rodman back in the day guarding Kareem in the finals. Dennis Rodman was Michael Jordan's secondary defender. When Joe Dumars had to go out, they would switch and they would put Dennis Rodman on him. Sometimes they put Dennis Rodman on him to start the game. The younger Dennis Rodman was one of the best athletes the NBA has ever seen. Although, the narrative is that there were no athletes, no real athletes like today's athletes back in the day. Again, a bunch of nonsense. I say all that to say this. You could try to make it as if Mike wasn't that guy. And you come out looking foolish every time. The lies need to stop, man. The lies need to stop. And there's going to be more people coming out standing up for this, and that's cool. I myself was inspired by people like Too Raw for TV, Too Raw for TV Sports, Ticket TV, a multitude of others. I can't remember them now, but I check their channels out and see what they do and what have you. And again, I was going to stay out. I was going to stay out of this, but hey, as a basketball fan and someone who has played basketball, no, I didn't play in the NBA or anything like that, but I know the game of basketball, and I played at and I played at a competent level. So to hear all this craziness, man, it is like, you know what? Enough is enough. But with that said, I'm going to land my plane. Before I get out of here, I would like to ask you all, do your boy a favor. If you feel that I have provided you some value with my video, like my video, comment, share it, but most of all, subscribe. I'm trying to grow this thing, and I cannot grow it without you. All right. I'm close to 600 subscribers right now, and I thank you all, because you could easily pay me no attention, but hey, you rock with your boy, and that means everything to me. So I'm going to go ahead and get on up out of here. I want to leave you with this, though. Remember, it's a lot of people talking, but not everybody's worth listening to. And with that said, good people, as always, 2 fingers equals peace.